Good day, class. Good day, classmate. We are your reporters or presenters for today. We will be discussing with you our topic about levels and principles of communication. So let us start by sharing with you our presentation. So we have here the first one, intrapersonal communication. In Interpersonal communication, or let's say self-talk and identity formation, interpersonal communication is all about talking to ourselves. We use phrase like telling ourselves the truth or admitting the truth to ourselves reflects human self-awareness. Interpersonal. When we say interpersonal, it is happening from within, meaning to say you're communicating with yourself. That's what we call a reflection. We always do that, of course. For example, when we are reflecting on our days, like scenario, like what we did in today's activity, we reflect. We say, did I do good today, or did I make something bad? Right. So you're asking yourself. That's interpersonal. Okay, not when you talk about that you might be thinking na you're crazy like that. Well, of course not. According to research, actually, that's what you call as metacognitive or metacognition. You are trying to think more about yourself. You are trying to reflect, and according to research, it's actually a highest form of intelligence. Um, you're able to reflect on what you've done wrong, something like that. So next we have interpersonal. Two people interacting. Interpersonal communication refers to the entire process and practice of exchanging ideas, information, and even emotional experiences that can be shared between people. It involves two parties, a sender and a receiver, who use common language to transmit message either through oral communication or written communication. Um, from the prefix itself, interpersonal, it's with other people. So communication with other people, not that kind of communication, of course, like what you see on the picture, but the highlight to that is that they are having teamwork. Pero hindi teamwork sa pag-cheat, of course, in a good sense. Something that we should not do. And here they are communicating through friends, and the children, they're playing over here. Okay, yeah, that's interpersonal communication. Okay, next we have two objectives of interpersonal communication. We have transactional and the maintaining social relationship. When we say transactional, you are communicating because you wanted to get some information from someone. Okay, but when we say maintaining social relationship, you are communicating because we want, or you want to build relationship with each other. You want to strengthen your relationship. That's why there is a great role of communication in there. So those are the two objectives of interpersonal. So let's move on to our next part, and that's gonna be public communication. One person speaking to an audience. Public communication involves a single speaker and sizable number of persons or an audience. The speaker is tasked to deliver a message or a speech of general interest to the audience. When we say public communication, so basically when you talk in public, that's public communication. All right, so when we talk about public communication, it is somewhat like delivering, no, not like somewhat, but it is delivering a speech in front of many people, or let's say a large audience, engaging in this type of communication. Engaging in this type of communication is quite unnecessary, especially when you are having a chance to talk with a lot of people in front of a crowd. In principles of this communication, this is the one many people find the most challenging, if you are agree with me. However, engaging in this type of communication has its own benefits. So what are those? When we say public communication, it involves a single speaker and a sizable number of persons. And it it is tasked to deliver a message or a speech of general interest to the audience. Like when you're going to make a speech for your friend's birthday, or um delivering speech for your mother and father's wedding anniversary. Those are examples of public communication. And you have a lot of audience, like, have you tried public speaking, wherein you need to speak up, share your thoughts and the motion to the crowd? Now, this type of communication requires more planning and preparation in the part of the speaker, since it lacks the intimacy that um, is typical of one-to-one and group of interaction. I mean, you do not like to be embarrassed, right? And to make fool out of yourself in front of those people, um, whom some whom some are not so familiar with, or some are strangers to you. Excuse me. That will be your worst nightmare, of course. Now there are limited or no opportunities for feedback in this communication, because the speaker has a definite or are prescribed time limit, and both the speaker and the audience maintain the rules throughout the speech event. The audience may, however, convey nonverbal messages, like, the audience are very excited, and it shows in their body language, their their posture, and their facial expression. But the speaker needs to use and sustain appropriate verbal and nonverbal cues to convey his or her messages to the audience. I mean, try to imagine the speaker not using gestures, like you are somewhat like a robot in front of many people. No one's want to listen to you. If you are that bored, and ano yun, no one wants will listen to you. For example, your facial expression should be appropriate to the message you are conveying. Like, it is a formal event, maybe you can have a serious face, or if it is a casual event, show that you are interested, act like you are excited. And you should also make sure that your gestures are not distracting, and that you make eye contact with the audience, like avoid unnecessary flick of your hair and unnecessary filler, like that for such a long time. You will do that. If you will do that, that is so distracting. So public communication requires a lot of planning and practicing and so on. So some examples of public communication are um, professors, professors giving a lecture at a conference, a president delivering an inaugural address, a candidate delivering a campaign speech, and a student delivering a valedictory speech. So, public communication may be done for the following reason. First is to inform. This is done to give information about a topic. For example, professionals such as doctors and teachers deliver speeches during conferences and seminars. Next is to persuade. Excuse me. This is done to convince people to adopt a specific point of view, or to call people to action. For example, include convincing others to buy products, or to support cause or advocacy, and to vote to vote for a particular candidate. Like, have you seen doing their spiel and speech at the mall? Like, they wanted you to buy this new pen or new shampoo, and then they wanted to persuade and convince you that that is really good, and they even offer free taste sa mga noodles, 'di ba? Sa mga coffee, or magbibigay sila ng discount, ganun, para lang mapapayag ka nilang bumili nun. And of course, lastly is to entertain. This is done during special occasions, such as delivering tools during a birthday, wedding, or anniversary. Also, entertaining speeches can be delivered during school and company program, and during Christmas or New Year's parties. Like, when you have to deliver a speech in front of an audience for your mother's birthday, best friend's birthday, and when you just have to like, have you stand up have you seen stand-up comedian doing their spiel in front of many people, and other people are laughing because their line are so hilarious? That is public communication to entertain. So next is mass communication, which ire-report ni Miss Alaro.
Thank you so much, Jai. So for our next levels of communication is mass communication. One source communicating to a large audience through media. The means of mass communication are newspaper, magazine, and periodical publications are commonly employed in both written and verbal communication. Moreover, there are technologies like email and the internet. The possibilities for internal and external communication have increased thanks to the use of voicemail, faxes, audio tape, teleconferencing, video conferencing, and closed circuit televisions. These quick methods make it easier to people to collaborate from all around the world. So for these levels of communication, which is mass communication, from the word mass, which is a large segment of population wherein the process of communication is through verbal or written media. We can see this huge field that focuses on both the medium used to send the message as well as how and why one is formed. So yung mga nakikita, naririnig, or nababasa nyo through in your TV, in your radio, in a paper or newspaper, or in other platforms of social media was considered under of communication. Kasi evolve tayo. At yung message na binibigay sa atin or yung information na pinapahatid sa atin ay para sa lahat. Because I believe one of the purpose is of these levels of communication is to inform us. And for the another reason is to make it easier for people to collaborate or to participate relating to the various of forms of media. And for the next levels of communication is a small group communication. Plus or minus 3 people interacting for a common purpose. Small group communication refers to interaction among 3 or more people who are connected through a common purpose, mutual influence, and a shared identity. So, for these levels of communication, usually nakikita natin when the two or more people exchanging message in a particular topic. One of the example of this when we are doing meeting. We shared ideas, suggestions, and even our clarification when planning into something. Another example, when in your family, sometimes you're all banding or talking about sa mga bagay na gusto nyo pag-usapan, just like just like a normal day when we are banding to each other. But in this communication, it has a limit of people and it is not like a mass or public communication. Okay, now let's proceed as to the principle of communication. So for our first principle of communication is completeness. The communication must be complete. It should it should convey all facts required by the audience. The sender of the message must take into consideration the receiver's mindset and convey the message accordingly. Sometimes when we are conveying message or information into the receiver, it must be complete in order to clearly understand what is all about. Sometimes matter is this. Even though verbal or in writing form, we should do completely our message to avoid also explaining and elaborating. Pag-isipan pang mabuti at siguraduhin na tama at kumpleto yung ihahatid mong mensahe para na rin hindi nakakaubos at nakakaaksaya ng oras. So for the second principle of communication is concreteness. Concreteness means conveying a message when precise terms. The concrete presentation has its own importance in any form of communication in a new window, be it written, oral visual, or audiovisual. A concrete message is easily understood by the receiver. A message sender, you build mental pictures for your receiver through your use of words. In your message, it should be clear or specific to avoid misinterpretation. Must be detailed to become your message solid. Like for example, when the professor gives instruction to their student about their performance task, and he said that you will do a reaction paper based on the video that have been shown earlier. Highlight the important scenes you notice in the video, and that's it. And the students still confusing if okay lang bang through writing or digital form. Because based on the instruction, wala namang sinabi. But still may mga ganap na hindi pala isulat sa papel. Di pwede or di, hindi papayag yung professor nyo na mag-digital form. So, minsan, ayun yung nagiging barriers sa sa principle ng communication na to. Kaya dapat minsan, kapag tayo nagbibigay ng message, kailangan specific na para iwas misunderstanding at para iwas na rin sa maraming mga katanungan.
For courtesy communication involves showing respect to others. This means that you need to be sincere and polite through written or in-person communication. Focus on the person you're communicating with and really listen to what they're saying to take their opinions and feelings into consideration. In courtesy, we need to listen carefully to the person we're talking with, like make eye contact or listen carefully for us to respond. If we're doing something, refrain multitasking. If we're doing something that's not connected to the topic, we need to stop it to to fully to fully cut our attention to them. If we're browsing our computer during the conversation, we need to stop it to give them our full attention. Correctness. Correctness means that the details of a message are accurate. Details involve not only the message content but also the message appearance. Always ensure the message you communicate is correct to the best of your knowledge. Your receivers invest precious time in listening or reading your message because they feel that the message communicated by you is reliable, and if they find it otherwise, you lose your credibility. Sa correctness naman, kailangan natin maging more accurate kasi ini-invest ng mga kausap natin yung time nila. Kung hindi tayo magiging kung hindi tayo magiging accurate, masasayang lang yung oras nila sa pakikinig sa atin sa mga walang kwentang bagay na sinasabi natin. Ayun. Dito sa correctness, kailangan nating mas maging malinaw sa mga nakakausap natin, sa mga kailangan nating sabihin, lalo na kung hindi natin masyadong kakilala yung mga kinakausap natin. Clarity means easy to read and easy to understand messages. Any mistake in the clarity expression may cause a communication barrier. A clear message in new window keeps the intellectual, emotional, and perception level of intended receiver in mind and focus on expressing a thought, not on impressing the receiver. Clarity means you, as a sender of a message, will deliver a specific message. Our message should have very specific goals. So rather than trying to say too many things at the same time, we need to make sure that we state clearly what our audience to do. So make it clear about the intention of your message. Parang kagaya din sa correctness, kailangan very specific yung mga sinasabi natin dito para sa mga receiver ng nakakarinig sa atin. Consideration is simply keeping in mind the requirements and views of the audience. While formulating our message, follow the you approach when dealing with your audience. Consider their level of education, interests, mindsets, etc. Emphasize what is possible rather than what's not when dealing with them. This will result in positive outcomes during our interactions. Sa consideration, kino-considerate din natin yung level ng mga audience natin sa education, interest, or mindsets. Sa gantong paraan, mas makukuha natin yung attention nila na makinig sa atin kasi ginawa natin yung paraan para maging level ng kung anong mga gusto nilang bagay.
Conciseness. Conciseness means saying that needs to be said in a few words as possible. It is important to keep the message clear and concise. Conciseness builds both credence and courtesy to your message. Courtesy in the window helps you build and maintain goodwill. It adds to the efficacy of the message. It adds not only to the efficacy of the message, but also save the receiver's time in understanding. Lengthy messages are not only boring, but are also distracting to the receiver. Being concise about the things you want to convey is one of the ways to have an effective communication. For example, in which I had an experience with, is when I helped in cooking. This is how the conversation with my mom. She told me, after boiling for a while, put a little bit of salt and oil in the pot. And lastly, add the pasta. In which I asked, how many minutes and how many is that? Which she answered, after 30 seconds of boiling, add a fourth of a spoon of salt and a spoon of oil, in which I had followed easily. So that's why you need to be concise for the message to be understood easily. Next, creativity. Creativity is an ability to think out of the box and create ways to solve problems. Creativity communication is the ability to communicate those ideas and thoughts in the most effective manners. We believe every child should nurture and follow the things of communication. When communicating, you need to be creative so that your target audience would likely be listening and be active during your talk. For example, your target audience are children and you want them to learn some things, but you can talk to them because they are naughty and very active in play. Then you need to think of a way for you to communicate with them. And using puppets as a tool to communicate with them is the way you see that will make them pay attention and won't lose focus on what you want to teach. And lastly, credibility. Communication credibility focuses on the communication skills necessary to build trust and credibility in any communication situation, formal or informal, seated or standing, face to face or over the phone, and in your work and personal lives. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationship. Credibility is judged by the receiver, whether they will believe the sender or not. For instance, when talking to someone, make sure that you have introduced yourself first and check if you are dressed appropriately. So they will have an initial view whether you can be trusted or not. And when you talk, make sure that you are delivering the message confidently so that the receiver will believe what you want to convey.
Okay, thank you everyone for that wonderful explanation. I hope everyone in this class is naintindihan yung levels and principles of communication. That's all. Thank you.